crime, homelessness, panhandling, the growth of Rapid City. Hey everybody, it's Tristan Emond, Mindful Living Realty, a realtor right here in Rapid City, South Dakota, the gateway to the Black Hills. These are the tough questions that I had the opportunity to sit down with the mayor of Rapid City, Mayor Jason Salamun, to find out his take on these issues, where Rapid City is, and where we're headed. We had a really good conversation. Let's do it right now.
Well, thank you, Mayor Salamun, for being here with me. I appreciate you honoring me with your time to talk to me about Rapid City.
My pleasure. I love the opportunity to talk about Rapid City and brag about why this is a great place to live.
Nice. Yeah, so tell me a little bit, let's talk to the viewers a little bit about yourself personally, your family, what brought you to Rapid City, that kind of thing.
Well, I moved to Rapid City at age 11. I was born in West Texas and moved up here, beginning of 6th grade. So I finished out elementary school here, went to middle school here. It's called junior high back then.
Yeah.
And high school, and then left for the Air Force, where I was stationed in Colorado Springs, and had overseas deployment and all of that. But after my service was up, I was then married, or still married to the same woman, but my wife and I decided to move to Rapid City to raise our family. We had one kid and one about to be on the way. So we moved back to Rapid City, and that was in 2001. And we, built our lives, built our careers, my career here. And yeah, it's been pretty awesome. We have a son and a daughter, and they're both grown. And it's pretty cool. My son went off to join the Army and pursue his adventures. And my daughter is in college at Black Hills State in Spearfish. And, very proud of them both. And, that was a big thing. After we got out of the service, we could have moved anywhere. Right. And so that was the big question, is where do we live?
Yep. A lot of options.
Yeah, a lot of options. But in terms of my background, prior to being mayor, military, and then I was in business for a good 20 plus years. Was an executive here locally at a credit union.
Right.
And then I went into ministry and served at Fountain Springs Church here in Rapid City while serving on the city council kind of simultaneously. And just a rewarding experience. And then about a year ago, the people elected me mayor.
And here we are.
Here we are. It's been quite the off-road adventure, to say the least. But I'm excited about this opportunity and about where Rapid City is going.
Well, thank you very much for serving and doing your part for Rapid City.
Yeah.
So the questions that we're going to talk about today are things that I've heard from a lot of different people that have a lot of concerns about where Rapid City is, where we're going, and that kind of thing. And so the biggest thing is everybody knows that Rapid City is growing. We're continuing to grow. It looks like we're going to continue to grow for the next few years. What's being done, or what's in the process to make sure that we're growing the right way and not a bunch of single-family homes trapped against each other, but keeping it South Dakota, keeping it the way it has been, and make sure we're growing correctly.
Yeah. So according to data I've received from the U.S. Census Bureau, from our economic development partners, Rapid City is the fastest-growing city in the Midwest. In terms of cities our size. And that is significant. And with that brings all sorts of opportunities and challenges. We can't hide behind that.
Right.
And that's really one of our big challenges now is, does the growth just happen to us, or do we try to get out in front of it and try to have healthy growth? I'm a big believer that healthy things grow. Healthy people grow, healthy organizations grow, healthy communities grow. But here's what I say, I want to keep Rapid City special. So for example, we could grow to be 1 million people. But I would not consider that a win if it's not a safe place to raise a family. If this is a safe and great place to raise a family, that means it's good for everybody, whether you have a family or not. And that's really what we're striving for. So it's less about how big can we get, but how better we can get. So the phrase I use here is, can we get better before bigger? Doesn't mean we won't get bigger, but I really want to focus on us being better. And that's I think what a lot of people look at, where they look at the kind of place that you want to live, is can it be better? And obviously now we have some challenges that are unique, that we are constantly working to address, but also these opportunities. I mean, it's amazing who's interested in Rapid City and the Black Hills region. And
like Costco, right?
Well,
everybody talks about Costco.
I won't sit here and tell you that I haven't had any conversations with them. In fact, I was in Colorado recently and got my Costco membership card. And I was at the counter, this is in Denver, I was at the counter buying it because I felt like I wanted a membership card, so that just enticed them to come to Rapid City. Like that card will make the difference. But it's funny, I'm at the counter and the guy's filling out my stuff And he goes, Rapid City, South Dakota, huh? I was like, yeah. He goes, well, that's where my mom lives. He's like, can I take a selfie with you and send it to her? I'm like, sure, so we did that. And but we certainly have conversations, of course, with a lot of these places that we do not have right now that are interested in what's going on here. And obviously, the growth is a big part of it, but we just have to tackle a lot of other issues. We have to have the workforce to fill the jobs that these companies, have available. We got to have, housing that is, which is a big challenge for us right now. So all of that's on the table. That's why I say it's an off-road adventure, because here we go. We are growing, and the question is not whether we're going to grow or not. We will. It's what kind of growth will it be?
So one of the things that you mentioned was safe. And if you look at our crime stats, we do not look like a very safe community, even though I look at it myself and I say, well, I didn't think it was that bad here. A lot of people moving into the area look at the crime stats and they go, that looks terrible. How do you respond to that?
Well, I think overall it's a very safe place to raise a family. For a while, part of this growth was meant we were having a hard time recruiting police officers. We were down, for us, 37 police officers not that long ago. We've instituted some changes to our salary and recruitment and retention package. We're now down about a dozen. It takes about 9 to 12 months to train a new police officer, so that's a big part of it. Mm-hmm. But the crime stats are interesting, because if we didn't enforce the law, we'd have really good crime stats. But if you enforce the law, it looks like it's worse. So, for example, right now, our speeding tickets, traffic violations are up about 25% versus this time last year. Well, that's by design. We have more officers, and we're a big believer that you have to enforce the little things before they turn into big things. A lot of people know that as broken windows theory, but we know this as parents. If your kid throws a fit over candy at the store and you give them candy, they're just going to throw a fit when they're a teenager, when you set a curfew, right. and it gets worse and worse. Instead, you want to stop that behavior early on so it doesn't grow into worse things later. Much better to kind of hold the line on candy versus hold the line later on when they're adults and you're not able to train them the way you were right. Back in the day. Well, that's our approach to law enforcement. So a lot of what we do is making sure that we enforce the law. So we try to do a very good job making sure, at least on the city end, that we enforce it. Then from there, it goes into the criminal justice system and the court system, and they'll figure out the appropriate, accountability from there. So I think that's a big part of it. There's always some socioeconomic factors that play a role. A lot of repeat folks that I think, there's, addiction is a big driver for most of the crime, not just here but everywhere. Drugs and alcohol, and yep. That's something that we take pretty seriously here. So when you have drug offenses or theft-related drug offenses, things like that, it's a big deal. Here's the thing: a lot of people around the country, they're getting normalized to theft being okay. That some stores will just let them get away with it. Yeah. So a big thing, since I've been mayor, is we put a greater emphasis on retail theft. Not only because theft is wrong, you can't accept it, but two, it gives a sense of lawlessness. When you see somebody taking something, that's not a good feeling. You don't want to live in a place like that. So we've worked with local retailers and stores to figure out strategies how to decrease that, to make sure they're calling that in. We found out there are department stores that do not enforce those theft rules. They had a threshold. So the police chief and I have tried to reach out to and even write letters to corporate offices saying, we need your help, big department store, mm-hmm. because you cannot contribute to this sense of lawlessness. Help us help you, and help your staff, because frankly, they're the ones who are on the front line who have to deal with this, and it's their safety. So the fact is, we do take it seriously here. That's why I was elected. Big part of my platform was public safety. And we've already seen vast improvements, but I will tell you, you will probably see statistics reflect the enforcement that we have right now, because we are taking it seriously. In addition, one of the great things about Rapid City, if you visit, is we have over 1,700 acres of park space. Yep. It is beautiful. It is awesome. You come here and people are always blown away. Well, we want those parks to be safe. So we're instituting a park ranger program, things like that, to make sure that people can enjoy the parks. We're big on not allowing camping in our parks, for example, for those who are experiencing homelessness. It's better to direct them to other services rather than to take over our precious parks, because it's not good for them. It's not good for the community. There are better options for folks. So those are a lot of the things, that we're working on, trying to do. Our job is to enforce the law. I can tell you that we are committed to doing that. The stats prove that. But frankly, the government can only do so much. We deal with the symptoms of social issues, but they run much deeper. And I think most of these public safety issues are a matter of the heart and the home. Having been in ministry, I will say that first and foremost, I think faith is critically important, of utmost important. And so when I say matters of the heart, I think that's a big part of it, is where are people's, meaning and what are they about? And I think that's huge. But also socially, the significance of family, and that's what I mean by the home. The fact is, if you look at the people who are repeat offenders on crime, right, you will find some commonalities. Yes, you'll find drugs, but even what's the root cause of that? Ask yourself, where are the fathers? How many of them have active, loving fathers in their lives? And you will find that a good deal of them, a lot of research has been done on this, that the absence of fathers in young people's lives attributes often, not always, there are exceptions, but often attributes to poor behavior down the road. So I'm a big believer in promoting faith and family. I believe that kids thrive with the structure in a loving home that nurtures them, that guides them, holds them accountable, teaches them, trains them, raises them to be who they're meant to be. Right. When that happens, they win. The government can't force that. I can talk about it in situations like this, but that's an upstream thing. So often our police department has to deal with the downstream. Right. We are committed to enforce it, but if you want actual significant change, you're going to have to go much deeper. I'd have to ask you, how are you parenting your children? What's your life like? What are you driven by? By what standard do you live? These kinds of questions, I think are things that we have to ask ourselves. So this is a nationwide conversation, but I think it's a critical one. Certainly Rapid City is not immune to some of the challenges, except here, unlike some other places, we actually take it seriously. We actually support our police officers. We actually resource them. They have a mayor who has their back, and we're proving it day in and day out. And I want to make sure that folks who live here and call this place home know that when they call, that we will do our best to address the situation. But if you really want to deal with the deeper issues, it starts with you and I.
It starts at home.
That starts at home.
Yeah. So kind of going along in the same vein, unfortunately, is homelessness and panhandling. A lot of people, that's one of their biggest complaints when they talk about Rapid City and being around. And what's being done about that, or can anything be done about that?
Well, for our part, I think there are several things. I think people have a lot of paths to take in life. First of all, the most important path is that people have personal responsibility to take care of themselves. Yeah. That's what we want. That's what people watching this, they're taking care of themselves. Yes, things do happen in life, and in that case, you hope that there's a family or friends there to help you out. So if you lost a job, or you had a family situation, health emergency, whatever the situation is, you need to have a community, you need to have people close to you that can help you bridge that gap during those tough times, and it happens. When that's not available, you hope that there's temporary shelters available, and there are here in Rapid City. There are homeless shelters. They have some accountability built into them, so not everybody likes that because they prefer the drugs and alcohol. And in that case, you hope there's good treatment available for people who need the help. And there is here in Rapid City. We have a thing called the Care Campus just here with a city-county partnership that has, safe beds, detox, short-term, long-term residential care. That's important. Obviously, mental health to play a role with some of these things too. You want there to be good behavior health centers. We have those things available here. And ultimately, if you break the law, there has to be accountability. So all of those things I think are important in a community. Now, here, we have some homeless folks. We have a proximity to reservations where people come back and forth. So they may have a home there, but they choose maybe to live in Rapid City for whatever reason. The reservation life, maybe they don't have family there, maybe they have family here, whatever the situation is. There's some of that, but that's not it. You also have veterans, who are down on their luck. You have people from all walks of life experiencing difficult times. I've seen, for example, addiction in my family, and what it's done, to people I love, and it's there's got to be a better way for them, because each of us are created in the image of God, and you have value, worth, and potential, and you want people to recognize that. However, our standards are that here in Rapid City, we don't allow public camping, so that's something that you're not going to see here. I'm sure people find nooks and crannies and things like that, but there are not tent cities. That is not really good or safe for anybody, especially in the winter time. Right now, as we're filming this, we are at the beginning of summer. This is probably evergreen, content. But so right now is the best. It's an amazing time of year for Rapid City. It's just summertime here is amazing. Even spring and fall are great. Yep. But do we have some days of tough winters? Yeah. Thankfully for us, that might be a couple of days, and then you have sunshine again because our sunshine index is so well. But those winters are tough, and that's certainly not any place that anybody who doesn't have a place to live wants to find themselves. Right. So. And there are places to go, but sometimes they choose, the drug of choice or the alcohol or whatever over a place to live. And I often think that we don't necessarily have a homeless issue. There is an addiction issue, and that is really at the heart of a lot of this. And yes, going back to the previous conversation, there's root causes for that, but that's something to address. So what I know is all around the country, there are people experiencing homelessness from all walks of life, many of them by choice, but some of them are just in tough times, and they want to get a hand up, not a hand out, in order to live the life that they're meant to live. Everybody, should be able to live that life that God's called them to, and they need love and encouragement to wrap around to that. So with panhandling and things like that, we're a tourist town. We have almost 4 million visitors a year. I think 3.8 million last year from the last estimates I saw. We try to encourage our tourists not to give to panhandlers. We have signs up that discourage that. We have giving meters that you can drop change in there that goes to local organizations helping those in need, versus oftentimes feeding the addiction of those who are on the streets. And I know that's tough for people to hear. We can't outlaw panhandling. I'm told that's a free speech issue, but we certainly can discourage it and encourage folks to give in other ways. Yes, we are called to be generous and to help others, help our neighbor, and I think we can do that in a healthier way. So that's something we try to teach our community. The challenge, of course, is with all of our visitors, that they all come from a different kind of backgrounds all over the place, and I get it. I love that instinct to be generous and be helpful, but sometimes your helping can hurt people. That there's actually a better way to help, and that's where we try to at least guide our community into contributing to organizations that are productive and really helping people in this space.
Right, and that's not something the government can really do. You need the private people to take care of. The homosexuals and stuff. That's kind of a private organization that does those kind of things. Yeah,
I'm kind of surprised how many people think the government's going to solve all these problems. I mean, are you serious? The government's going to solve all these problems? But the fact is, it's going to take all of us. It's going to take nonprofits, churches, individuals doing their part. The government plays some roles, but these needs are significant, and this is, again, all around the country, and some people make it a whole lot easier, to live that kind of life. We don't want that for people here. We want them to live better lives than on the streets.
So chat with us a little bit about the comprehensive plan that I know the Rapid City has and how that's going to work in the next few years.
Yeah, so I think most communities have a comprehensive plan. This is where they kind of, and I'm a big believer in planning, but you write your purpose in pen and your plans in pencil. Right. And so, but for the next 10 years, the city's putting together a comprehensive plan just to say this is how we're going to look. And right now, we are in the midst of starting that next 10-year plan. The last one was updated in 2014. It's currently 2024, so we're updating that 10-year plan. That's important because those vision funds that I talked about before, one of my proposals is that we tie funding to the comprehensive plan to fund some of the projects that will come out of it. So that comprehensive plan takes a ton of public input from citizens, from developers, from businesses and nonprofits, and realtors, whatever, everybody who wants to weigh in. Hey, here's the direction we need to go. Here's what we want to look like as a community, culturally, economically, everything, and kind of go in that direction. And it gives us a blueprint for the future. So right now,
line out the residential, commercial, and
that's where your zoning regulations come in. So so one of the big things here is we've had a lot of sprawl over the years. People are surprised we have as many miles of roads as the city of Minneapolis. At least that's what I've been told. I haven't actually gone out with my measuring tape to check that out, but that's project. But we certainly don't have that kind of budget. We have to remove snow on those streets, and you have to realize, like, some places the streets don't wear out as fast as here, because here, you get snow. And in some places your snow stays, which actually helps, but here it melts because, one day it can be, 10 degrees and snowing, and then 2 days later it could be 50 degrees with the sun shining, and it all melts again. And then snow comes again and it melts, and snow comes and melts. And that is really hard on your roads. And also, we have to treat those roads in the wintertime to try to make sure that we can keep the city moving as much as we possibly can. That's expensive. And so, it's very taxing on the city, on the taxpayers, but that's part of the price of living in South Dakota in a northern climate. But it creates those kind of challenges. So the comprehensive plan helps us address those. So the problem with the sprawl, though, is we want to encourage more infill development. There are still areas of the city within the city limits that are bare land or could be redeveloped. And those are things I'd like to see us focus on. And then
kind of like where Hillsview Homes is building right now. That was kind of
it's a good example.
Pocket. Yeah.
Yep, that's a great example. Rather than building some neighborhood out of town and calling it Rapid City, if they want to build out of town, that's one thing. But for Rapid city limits, we want to build strategically, obviously. The city also depends on building where the developers say to build, because they're the ones taking the risks, and they have to put in the infrastructure. We are trying to start a fund where we could be more proactive in our development, where the city could put in, road, water, sewer, and say, grow here. And as builders and developers, build and develop on there, they'll be put a fee on that to pay back to the city to use for the next development. So I think that's going to be a big change for us if we can get there. That's a big part of what we're working on right now.
To have the developers develop wherever they want and however they want, then the city has a little more.
Yeah, we have a little more say. It's a little easier when the city puts the skin in the game.
Right.
And then it's assessed back still.
Then the builders are just buying lots and building on the lots.
Yeah, it's attractive to them. That's one less thing they have to worry about. And then we can start cranking, and it's more directional. And that's where the comprehensive plan goes. So that will, when we talk about proactive development, if the city can ever get to that point of strategic growth, then that will tell us this is how we're going to grow. And we can do it in a smart way. It's something the Rapid City's never really had to do before. Some places this is automatic. That really their city fathers or people long ago decided that was how they were going to develop, and so they set that in motion. We never did here. Right now, that's one of my big tasks with addressing how we use that vision fund. Is I'm trying to set seed money aside right now at currently $20 million to say seed money to start that process. Can we start to direct funding towards proactive development? That's not enough, but it's enough to get us going. And it pays back. It's a revolving fund that can be used for the next project. And over time, I think the city will be in better position to grow in a way that is most effective and makes a lot of sense. We have a lot of terrain challenges here. When you look at the topography in Rapid City, the beauty of it is awesome, but the challenge of it is it's really difficult to build on all these hills and things like that. So the flat land is on the outer rim of the city. It's the cheapest place to build, but it also has no infrastructure to it. It has no water, sewer, roads, schools, parks, fire department. All of that has to service those. So, and that's expensive the further out you go. So we're trying to kind of do that in a better way moving forward. That comprehensive plan will be key to helping us realize, how's Rapid City going to look? When you look at us on the map, how's that going to look? Not just working in it, but working on it.
Well, let's go back a little bit, talk about the Rapid City growth.
Okay.
And at that breakfast that we were talking, that you were at with us realtors, you talked about the how the Rapid City sales tax works,
Okay.
and how it also then that impacts the city. And I know a lot of people really understand how that sales tax impacts us, and how the vision funds also work into that.
So the city of Rapid City is primarily funded by sales tax. And it goes up and down depending on how the economy is going. So it creates a little bit of volatility. Property taxes here, about half of it goes to your school district. Roughly 35% or so goes to the county government. About 15, maybe even less than that, goes to the city government. Almost enough to pay for the police department, but not quite, that much. So, that's important to note. And here in Rapid City, we have 2 cents of sales tax that goes back to the city. So you spend $1, 2 cents of that goes to the city. 1 penny of that dollar goes to pay for the general fund, which is how we operate and maintain the city. The other penny is really divided up into our capital improvements projects fund, which is things that fund, infrastructure and those roads, water, sewer, those sort of things, facilities, and also something we call the Vision Fund. So we're unique here in Rapid City, where that second penny in most South Dakota communities, that second penny goes all to their infrastructure in their CIP funds, their capital improvements. Here, about 58% of it goes to capital improvements, which is a challenge for us, because then the other 42% goes into a fund called the Vision Fund. It was something that was put in place years ago, originally in 1972, to build our original Civic Center complex. Then when that paid off in the mid-90s, the voters wanted to continue it to really fund economic development and civic improvements. And over the years, it has had many modifications. And in recent years, much of that has gone to fund projects that are not city-related at all. Great things, but not city things. And so lately, I've pitched a proposal to focus those funds, taxpayer money, back to the taxpayer benefits, to focus on public projects over private ones. So that's a big, initiative I'm taking right now. By the time somebody sees this,
what would be some of those projects, such as what would be some of the vision projects that would be for the city?
Well, we have to do an airport expansion at some point because we have so many people coming in.
Yep.
I would like to see it personally. I'd like to see a new public safety training center for our police and fire department, maintenance facility for our fleet, things like that, sports facilities, parks and recreation facilities.
The project that went up on Dinosaur Park, was that all vision funds?
Yeah. So, one of the most iconic places in Rapid City is Dinosaur Park, and it was a Vision Fund project. That's a public park that would completely fall in line with the use of the Vision Fund, even under my proposal. In fact, the Dinosaur Park project is one of my favorite ones because it's iconic, but to get up to it, you had to be able to climb these kind of unstable stairs, and it was a challenge. And if you had a wheelchair or kids in strollers or anything like that, forget about it. Well, now we've made it, and it's a great project, and we're about to do the grand opening for it. We made it accessible to people, so you're able to go up. There's a good winding path up there, and that view up there is amazing. You can see both sides of town, the west side and the east side. In fact, a little story about Dinosaur Park. When I first moved here at age 11, we were driving through town, and I was scared because I came from Texas, and it's a new place and didn't know anybody, and I'm driving through town, and I remember my dad and I driving through the Gap. Mm-hmm. The Gap is what you call pretty much the middle of town. You can see Dinosaur Park on one side, M Hill on the other, and just that area is called the Gap. For those who are not living here.
I always tell people about the Gap.
Yep. There's going to be, I'm sure you have videos to explain to people some of the language that we use here. So that's the Gap. It's not just a place to shop, but a place to drive through. But when I'm a little kid, we're driving through town, and I'm scared, and I look up and I see this dinosaur on a hill, and I'm like, whoa, there's a dinosaur. And I said, Dad, there's a dinosaur on the hill. He goes, yeah, did you see its head move? And we're driving in a car, so it's moving a little bit. I'm like, yeah, I did. I imagined that I did. As a kid, when you're in a new place and it's unfamiliar, seeing a dinosaur was fun. And it made me think, this is a cool place. It's whimsical, that people come here to play. And you know this, Rapid City is where adventure lives. And everybody who comes here, they experience that, firsthand, whether it's the dinosaur on the hill, or Black Hills in the backyard, or starting a business. All these things are adventurous. And, that was my first impression of Rapid City. So what's really cool now is to approve a vision fund to make sure that everybody can experience what it's like to go up there. And these are just big dinosaur statues, But, to us, it's iconic. And some people initially, I think, may even roll their eyes at it, but after a while, that quirkiness, you embrace it. It's part of who you are, and so you either try to, run away from it, or you embrace it. I'm one who just says, embrace the thing that makes you unique, and Rapid City is special. I have zero interest in Rapid City becoming another generic mid-sized city that looks like everybody else. I want us to be uniquely us. That's what I mean when I say I want us to stay special. We have deep values here. We have beauty here. It's a great place to raise a family. And it's growing for a reason, because people are discovering what we already know, that this is an amazing place to call home and plant your roots and build your life. And that's what it's all about. So I'm excited about our future. I think the future's bright for Rapid City, and we know there's more to come.
Where do you see Rapid City in like 5 years?
I see in 5 years us even more mature. I think in 5 years from now, we should start to get a handle on some of the growth. I mean, rather than having that growth happen to us, getting out in front of it. So being intentional, about how and why we're growing. We know that with Ellsworth Air Force Base here, we are adding a new mission for the B-21 bomber. That's big. That over the course of about 15 years, will bring steady planned growth to the whole area, not just Rapid City, but the surrounding area. So we know that's going to happen, but I do believe that momentum will build because people are discovering us. And I would say that if you're coming to Rapid City trying to change Rapid City to look like where you came from, don't come here. We do not want you here. But if you're coming to Rapid City because the values here align with your values and you want to keep it special and make it better, we welcome you with open arms. And that's been part of the challenge. So I think we're going to grow. I think we're going to make improvements. I think we're going to surprise people about what's happening here. There are still unique challenges here that just the growth even won't take care of. Often people think that Sioux Falls is our big competition. It's our sister city in South Dakota. They're about 364 miles away from here. But they're not the nearest metro area. The nearest metro cities to us are Billings, Montana, Cheyenne, Wyoming, Fort Collins. Those are all closer than Sioux Falls, South Dakota. And so we're more of a Mountain West community. And so, but when you draw that 250, 300 mile circle around Rapid City, and those are the cities that you touch, but that's how far it is from the nearest metro area. I dare you to find a metro area of over 100,000 people, let's say, that have that kind of distance to the nearest metro area. It is a unique place we find ourselves. We're on an island. So that creates all these opportunities and challenges. It's probably what makes us a little weird, little quirky. It's a good thing, but also it preserves, kind of what we are as well, because, this city has a lot of agricultural roots. You see that reflected in our values. You see that reflected in our work ethic and sense of community. I don't ever want to lose that, but there is so much to look forward to. I think we'll certainly have more job opportunities. The housing should be better by then, because right now there's a lot of
Stuff getting built.
Yeah, it's a lot of stuff in the pipeline even, and a lot of interest in significant investments. I think we will continue to be a tourist destination, but we're also big on diversifying our economy. Agriculture and tourism are South Dakota's two strongest industries. We'd like to expand that. Obviously, we produce great talent at the School of Mines, for example. It's one of the best engineering schools in the country. But we have, other educational opportunities as well. We have great vocational education here. We have a good general college here, like where my daughter is going to school to be a teacher. We have a lot of opportunities for folks, and I think that's the big thing. However, we're going to have to address the housing situation, because what's happened with all the migration here is it's jacked up the values of our homes. Things that should be affordable currently are not, and that's hurt our property taxes, which is something we're going to have to address here. Yep. Because our property taxes It's not that we're charging more for property taxes because of the government. It's more about the home values. So you have the mill levy times the home values. That's what increases. Well, yesterday's $200,000 house is today's $375,000, $400,000 house, and not everybody has the budget, to pay those property taxes or to buy those homes. So they're kind of stuck in those situations. So we're not seeing the movement that we were used to seeing for some time, combined with, of course, the current interest rate environments and inflationary. Yeah, it causes some challenges. So one of the best things we can do to help with that is to make sure that good places to live aren't scarce, but that there are plenty of them to go around to meet the supply and demand are met. So that's again something that others are looking to make sure that they put in place for us. But I think we'll be in a better place in 5 years, unless we have just some crazy surge that we were not anticipating again. The surge we've had the last few years, we did not plan for.
That was weird.
We were used to 1% to 2% growth for years and years and years, and then suddenly, boom. Everybody came here because they found out this is where freedom is. They found out that the way of life. They found out that it's a much better place to raise your family. So as they started finding that out, and in Rapid City, it's beautiful. And that was the other thing. Most folks, when they think of South Dakota, they think of flat land. They don't think about Mount Rushmore being 20 minutes away, or some of the most breathtaking views you've ever seen in your life in your backyard. Well, they're finding out, and I don't blame them, and we're awfully proud of where we live, and we want to keep it awesome.
Well, thank you very much, Mayor Salamun. I appreciate you taking the time to talk with me about Rapid City and the issues.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for sticking around to the end of this one. If you think Rapid City might be a place for you, check out my relocation guide, The 13 Reasons Why You Should Move to Rapid City. That link is in the description below. Thanks so much for watching. Have an amazing day. Remember, love where you live.